Okay, so we're back together on Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is dealing with ethics and methods. Ethics is really an important area in studying, doing field research with human beings because of the whole issue of privacy, getting permission from those you're studying to utilize the data you take from them, whether it's their life histories or some of their, even some of their documents, diaries, that information you're using will not be used against them in some fashion. So basically, the people that we study need to know up front while we're there what we're after, what are we going to do with this data once we leave, what are we going to give back to the community in exchange for their good partnership, collaboration in helping you do your research. These are important questions. It's also, and has become much more so as the people that are being studied are becoming more literate, that there's always legal issues involved in this. So even universities nowadays, when, let's say, for example, I want to do a piece of ethnographic research, I have to get permission through a university review board. They have to look to see what you're doing to make sure that it's legal, that you're not out to hurt anyone, whether unintentionally usually, but is there the possibility that someone's reputation, for example, could be harmed through doing this research project? And it's essential to think about. And as you read the chapter, you read about the ethical codes in anthropology. There, make sure you touch base. But since we have short, limited time here, and for me, I want to just look at the ethnographic techniques, the methodologies that we use to get at culture. We have these theoretical understandings of what culture is, but once we're standing in the middle of a village somewhere and we're trying to understand the daily complex behaviors of peoples, how do we get at that? How do we make that transition from the abstract to the concrete? Well, methodology is our various methodologies is the pathway to doing so. It gives us focus on what to do, and it's kind of like a toolkit. A guy building a house, he has his toolkits when he comes across certain situations, needs in the construction of his house or building. He'll reach for certain tools, right? You don't use a sledgehammer to screw in a screw. Same thing with our doing field research. We have certain methodologies or techniques of methodology that we can utilize to get at certain questions. So let's look at some of these. Probably the most important and most utilized form or technique in doing ethnographic research is called participant observation. Participant observation is when you participate with a group. For example, with my study with the PD, I participated in the band office on a daily basis, helping the secretaries with errands, helping with the chief, going with the chief to meetings down in the state capital, Columbia, participating in the Christmas giving of gifts, going out into the community and the food bank and delivering food stuff, all the while participating correctly, participating with everyone else in these events, but at the same time, I'm an observer. That is, I'm both friend and a distant observer at the same time. It's an oxymoron, if you will. But I am observing, and my dissertation again for my dissertation research and for my book, 99% of it comes from being at certain events as a participant, and also observing and listening to what's being said, and actually in my own conversation with others, gathering my data. And then, at night, the field worker, when they get their privacy, their time, they'll sit down and reconstruct on the computer, if they have today, and on a file, my field notes, and just directly transcribe what is in memory or even on tape, what happened in the events that day, and reconstruct the conversations we had. And that becomes, in the end, that becomes the data set. We also have conversations with varying degrees of formality, from just the casual sitting down and just like having a conversation with anyone, to some just having chit-chat, to also having unstructured interviews, where it's a little bit more formal. You have certain really questions, general questions you want to ask, down to a very structured interview where you already have all the questions that you want to ask ahead of time. And you ask that person directly, like with a clipboard with the questions, and you just go through the questions. Many times we use those to get more uniform kinds of data. Generally, a structured interview will come into play in doing an ethnographic research later on. At first, you want to be open. You want people to be open. You're exploring what are the issues, what is on their minds. You may be even still looking for your topic to ground your topic further. So you're just exploring things. You just want an open conversation. I would say that 99% of all the data in my dissertation and in my book, it comes from informal conversations, whether you're in the car traveling with the chief or traveling with another researcher that I got to meet and sharing information about the cultural artifacts and where to find them. Talking about some of the cultural traditions of the group, just having a conversation, and then going home and then reconstructing that information into my fieldwork notes afterwards, usually in the afternoons after I went home from my studies. So it can be varying degrees of just conversation all the way to some structured interviews. Another methodology is genealogical methods. When I was hired by the PD, my former role was that of genealogist, and I had a governmental position with the tribe, helping to find information on their family research so that we could see who belonged to the tribe and who did not. And this can be important. It's not used in all situations, like any of these. You can use various tools depending on the questions being asked. Then there's detailed work with working with key informants. As the book shows, that term has changed to some extent. Now we talk about key consultants. And what I'm going to do is, because I don't like these tapes to run along more than 7 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the next, let's switch over to the next video to continue.